Hi, I'm Alicia White. I'm here with my colleagues at Team C, Kevin Garrity, Jason Hughes, and Vinny Welch. We wanted to take a minute to thank you for seeing our team today and allowing us the opportunity to present to you our new game concept, Letters for Learning. The concept for Letters for Learning really came from the need to have our children interact with electronic devices at an earlier age. Once they reach school, computers are really introduced almost immediately. So the more opportunities that we provide to our children to interact with electronic devices, the more comfortable they can be and the more prepared they can be for school. Being a parent myself, I've always had my child wanting to use my, phone, tablet, computer. And I've struggled somewhat in finding games that are both age appropriate, educational, and entertaining and fun. So, kind of playing upon the idea of allowing kids to interact with electronic devices and also giving them a game that's fun and educational, we came up with Letters for Learning. The game itself, as being educational, really takes those educational foundational blocks that every child is provided with colors, letters, and shapes. It also builds upon the matching and grouping concepts that are introduced at such an early age. The game is interactive. It asks and requires the child to, look at a grid-like format and try to group or match letters that are the same in order to clear that group and then to add more letters to the grid. As they're clearing lines and grouping of letters, they're gaining points. The more points they gain, then they can transfer to other levels, unlock other levels, and unlock special features. So the game's always building upon itself. Um, every level offers a different, you know, level of difficulty for the child. If the child isn't comfortable in going to the next level, that introduce new concepts, maybe it requires more points to be earned, maybe you have to group in a quicker fashion, that's okay. You don't have to progress to the next level. You can keep replaying the earlier levels until they're comfortable to move on to the next levels. You can set different user profiles to adjust the levels of learning. So, you could start out with, new or basic as your user profile. And then as the child becomes more comfortable, you can build upon that. There also is a two-player mode. So potentially maybe your child is playing against you. So their user profile is set up for their age appropriate level, where your user profile may be set at a more adult or difficult level as you're playing each other. So there's many different options to make the game suitable for a lot of audiences, as well as the ability to download on most mobile devices for free. This puts it into the hands of most users. It really doesn't make it unattainable for most people. The game builds upon and also offers other versions. So let's say you get tired of Letters for Learning. Your child is getting bored with matching and grouping the letters. They can go and purchase patterns, numbers, or animals. So there's the ability to build upon this concept. The audience, of course, is children of elementary age, but really with the use of the user profiles, it can be adaptable to anyone. And it's a great tool to kind of bring those siblings together, maybe use it for you and your child to do something together. And it really does, it is a basic skill level. It requires, on the touch devices, like a swiping of the finger. If your device is non-touch compatible, it requires a mouse for point and click. So very basic skills to build with your child. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Kevin Garrity. He's going to get into the type of game, the setting, and characters for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Hi, my name is Kevin Garrity, and I'm also with the Higher Solutions Team C. And I would like to discuss a few more aspects of our awesome new game known as Letters for Learning. The main areas I want to touch on are the game type, the game setting, the character options, player interactions, and the player options. The first area I want to talk about is the game type. The game type can be classified as an electronic puzzle game, but also considered an educational tool. The reasoning behind this is the use of numbers, shapes, and colors, along with the use of organizational skills, as the player will move the different letters, numbers, shapes, and colors in different orders and combinations to solve the puzzles. This will promote strategy and multi-step thinking. The next area I want to talk about is the game setting. The setting for the game will consist of a rectangular game area that will contain all the different letters, numbers, shapes, and colors. The rectangular game area will also have a colorful background image at each level. This image will change with every level as the game progresses. Another option on the game setting will be the help button. This button will be used to give a hint for difficult puzzles that children are having trouble with. The next area I want to talk about is the character option. Each player has the option of choosing an assortment of avatars to represent them on the results and transition screens between levels. This means that your character will show up after you beat a level or after you've beaten the entire game on the results screen. Some of the options for the characters are between a boy and a girl, hair color and hairstyle, eye color or glasses if desired. You can change the skin type and the face shape. The next area I want to talk about is the player interactions. The player interacts by touching the screen and selecting a letter, number, shape, or color and moving them in a horizontal or vertical direction with their finger. You can also use the mouse option by selecting a letter and compressing the left button and dragging it in a horizontal or vertical direction. You can also use the mouse to select the help button to give a hint and solve the puzzle. The next area I want to talk about are the player options. These options will include a single player mode if you're going to play by yourself, a two-player mode if you're competing with others on the same game board with the exact same letters. Another option will be to adjust the difficulty level. In case the game is too hard, you can make it easier. If it's too easy, make it more difficult. We will also have the option of a leaderboard where you can see and post your high scores. We will also have the ability to change the look of the character as the game goes on. So if you're playing and you want to make your blonde-haired girl turn to a brown-haired girl, you can do that option on level 3. It really won't matter. One other note, we will need an internet connection for the two-player option. In closing, I would just like for you to consider some of the positive aspects of our awesome concept game known as Letters for Learning. First, it is a puzzle game that is also a beneficial children's learning tool. Second, it is colorful and fun to play. Third, it has multiple character options. Fourth, it is both a touchscreen and mouse compatible. And fifth, it has the multiplayer option. This concludes my section of the Higher Solutions team presentation, and I thank you for listening. My name is Kevin Garrity. Next up will be my teammate Jason Hughes, and he will be discussing game objectives, game rules and limits, and the platform.
Hello, my name is Jason Hughes, and I will be explaining the game objectives, game rules, and the game platforms that are associated with Letters for Learning. First, let's go over the objective of the game. The objective is to create chains of identical objects. These objects are in the form of letters, shapes, numbers, and colors that are all integrated throughout various levels that will excite and educate children alike. Earlier levels are easier and start out with only letters that can be matched, and as the difficulty advances, so does the objects that can be utilized. As the levels advance, the objects will vary from letters, shapes, numbers, and will come in a variety of colors. The objective is to pass all levels within the game and to set high scores that can be shared with family and friends via mobile application. This also familiarizes children with their various colors, shapes, and letters, and can be a great learning tool. Next, I'll discuss the game rules. The game rules are fairly simple. Chains must be in a minimum of 3 in a row, the objects must be identical, and the rows must be completed horizontally or vertically. This means diagonal rows will not be accepted. The larger the chain that is created, the more points that will be rewarded. And special items can be unlocked through this process. For example, a wild object may be visible upon doing a chain of 5 or more. This wild can then be used to make other chains that are desired. The limitations are in the free version, which is limited to only 35 levels. But for 99 cents you can purchase the full version, which comes with an extra 15 levels. This paid version will also include updates periodically that will continue to add more levels throughout the history of this new and exciting game. Finally, I'll be discussing the game platforms that are available. Letters for Learning is available on mobile operating platforms like Android or iPhone operating systems. This includes tablets that have these mobile operating systems as well. Letters for Learning is also available on personal computer. However, a mouse accessory is required to play on the PC version of this game. On the mobile operating platform versions of the game, they can be played via the touchscreen that is available on mobile phones. Now that I have explained the game objectives, rules, and the game platforms that are associated with Letters for Learning, I will turn over the conclusion of this presentation to Vinnie Welch. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy this new game.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and thank you again for giving us this opportunity to tell you about our game, Letters for Learning. My name is Vinnie Welch, and I'm going to go over a little bit about some of the tools, resources, and the process for completing our game. First off, I want to touch up on what you have heard so far. My colleagues have told you some of the game objectives, options, the rules and limits, as well as the suggested platforms. I'd like to take a minute for any questions you might have based on what you have heard so far. Now, moving on, we are going to go over with you what tools and resources we are going to use to bring this awesome idea to life. First, we are going to use C++ as a program language. We then need to incorporate the idea of the game into the language code. Next, we are going to gather all the little sounds, textures, and models into one place and start inputting these into the language process. Now, once we have that, we will start building up the game engine, which is going to allow us to bring all those rules and actions we want in the game to life. Now that we have the actions, the sounds, the models, the textures, and the rules in place, we then want to add our interactive script. This will give our game the depth and provide the addictive reaction we want. Lastly, we have now incorporated all the components we needed. We then move on to set up the beta testing period. The beta testing period gives us an opportunity not only to get gameplay feedback, but we also want this time for the ability to work out all the kinks and bugs prior to the product launch. After we got our finished product, we need to obtain our copyrights and trademarks to prevent anyone from stealing our awesome learning tool. This also helps protect our investment and our investors. We finish up with the promotion and the release dates and send our product into the world. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, is our plan on Letters for Learning. I want to thank you again for giving Learning Team C and Letters for Learning some of your valuable time. I'd like to open the floor now for any questions that you might have and leave you with our motto. with an idea, the journey begins. Thank you again from Learning Team C and Letters for Learning. Have a great